With so much at stake, there were chaotic scenes at the start of play, with the Russian and American teams being mobbed by photographers. At the start of the day, the USA were leading the points table by a half from the USSR, who were in turn a half up on England. The Americans played Bulgaria, the Russians Poland, and England were drawn against Brazil. All three sides knew they had to perform to their very best to take gold. Gagnon got the Soviets off to a good start, beating the Polish number 3 Kuczynski. Then Karpov manoeuvred into a fine winning position against Schnapik. The Americans, meanwhile, were feeling the pressure of leading into the final day and were playing themselves into trouble. Although John Fedorovich rounded off a fine personal Olympiad by beating Krum Georgiev, his colleagues Larry Christensen and Nick de Furman were in difficulty in their games. But England were having no difficulty at all against the Brazilians, who'd put up such stiff resistance to the Americans in the previous round. Spielman and then Chandler had early wins, and Nigel Short made it 3-0 after about 4 hours. Karpov and Yusupov, though, were keeping up the pressure on the top sides by gaining wins and taking the Soviet Union to 3-0. And when de Furman and Christiansen both succumbed to draws, and Sirowan had played into deep trouble against the Bulgarian number 1, all eyes focused on the world champion Garry Kasparov, who now needed a win against Schmidt to put the Russians in a strong position. On the top board for England, John Nunn beat Sune to make it a clean sweep, and with 4 points on the board, the English had done all they could. Just like the crowds, which stood several ranks deep, all England could do was wait for the result of the last vital matches. By now, Kasparov was grinding his way inexorably towards a win, so whatever result Sirowan got against the Bulgarian was becoming academic. When the end finally came, there were unprecedented scenes around the Soviet boards. The Russians, who'd looked markedly tense for most of the tournament, wore the broadest smiles of the week. They had, after all, just won the closest chess Olympiad in history, beating England by that half-point lead which they held over into the last day.
الصالة كما تشاهدون تضج بالتصفيق، وهذا هو جاري كاسباروف بطل العالم. يتسلم أولا من راعي الحفل صاحب السمو الشيخ مكتوم الذي ناضل كثيرا، كان مرشحا في الأول جاري كاسباروف ووسامه، وهذا كاربوف بطل العالم السابق.